Hey, what's going on, guys? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at a really awesome console-sized gaming PC known as the MSI MPG Trident 3. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know I love these small form factor gaming PCs, and when these were initially released, I just couldn't bring myself to pay full price for something like this. But luckily, I found one refurbished on eBay for $629, and I had to jump right on it. They were also offering the i7 version with the 1660 Super, but that one was $979 refurbished, and even then, right now, the way PC part prices are and graphics cards, both of them turned out to be a really good deal. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this thing out. Now, these were factory refurbished from MSI, and I'll leave a link to their eBay page in the description. I'm not being paid to make this video or anything like that. I simply found this on eBay and bought it because I really wanted to get my hands on one. As for the power supply here, it is a bit bulky, coming in at 230 watts. We also get that stand, power cable, and under here we should have the PC itself, the Trident 3. Yeah, it's definitely got some good weight to it. And this thing is absolutely tiny for a pre-built gaming PC. Now, we only have that 1650 Super, but we should be able to play some of our favorite games at high settings and even some older ones at ultra. And overall, I really do like the design of this thing. I mean, around back here, we have plenty of I/O for a small PC like this. It does have built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And yeah, I'm super excited to see how this thing performs. So on the front here, we have two audio jacks, microphone in, headphones out, USB Type-C, and two USB 3.2 ports. We're on back here on the video card side, full-size DisplayPort, full-size HDMI, and DVI. Over here on the motherboard side, we have our power in, another HDMI jack, four USB 2.0 ports, another USB 3.2, gigabit Ethernet, and some more audio in and out. So real quick, let's take a look at the internals. It's actually pretty easy to get this top off. Pop that side panel off, two screws, and this thing slides right off. We got a blower style heatsink on that i5 CPU. And for that GPU, we have the MSI Aero 1650 Super. Now this was the base model, so it only came with 8 gigs of RAM, and they used a single SODIMM stick. This is running at 2666, and I will be upgrading this to 16. Really, it comes down to running this in dual channel to get the most performance out of it. This also has a 256GB NVMe SSD and a 1TB mechanical drive. I do not see them here, and I don't want to pull it apart to get under that motherboard just yet unless I run into an issue. Now, there is one main thing that I'm going to be upgrading for this video, and that's going to be the RAM. I'm just going to throw two 8GB sticks in here, bringing it up to a total of 16, and we're still going to be running at 2666. Nothing fancy here, just some inexpensive Kingston RAM. As basic specs go, for the CPU we have the Intel i5-10400F, 6 cores, 12 threads, base clock of 2.9 with a boost up to 4.3, GTX 1650 Super, and 16GB of DDR4 running at 2666. Okay, so I've had a couple days to mess around with this PC, and it's been a great experience. Now, I've got everything we're going to test here already installed on this. It's running Windows 10 Home right out of the box. And as you can see, this will go vertical, or you could set it horizontal if you want to. Got a little bit of RGB on the top. You can turn this off if you want to. You will have to use one of the pre-installed MSI apps to control it. And speaking of pre-installed software, there was some bloat on here. It did have Norton Security pre-installed. That's something I totally wiped off of here. And when it comes down to the other pre-installed bloat, it's all MSI stuff. They have the Color Director, Sound Director, and the Red Dragon app, which allows you to control the RGB. Now, I've done a lot of testing with this unit, and the main thing I was worried about with this was sound and heat. And surprisingly enough, they've done an amazing job with the CPU cooling system inside of the Trident 3. It actually stays relatively quiet while you're gaming, and the highest CPU temperatures that I've seen out of this thing so far while gaming was 76 degrees Celsius. I figured it would be much higher. I haven't hit thermal throttle with this unit yet. So the first thing I did was run a couple benchmarks. First up, we have Geekbench 5 coming in with a single core of 1107, multi of 5071. Next up, 3D Mark Firestrike with a total score of 11,366. And finally, Time Spy with a 5015. Now, just taking a look at these scores here, this is going to be an awesome little 1080p machine, and going into this, I knew we had enough power with that 10th Gen i5 and that 1050 Super. But let's go ahead and see how it really performs. First up, we have Forza Horizon 4, 1080p, ultra settings. I got an average of 75 FPS out of this one. It looks great, super smooth, and obviously it's fully playable on a machine like this. Now for the rest of my games, I just plugged this into my game capture so we could get a better look at the screen. Next on the list, we have Overwatch. This is a very well optimized game, and it does run really well on a lot of different systems. We're at 1080p Ultra, and I got an average of 137 FPS out of this one. When it comes to CSGO, we're at the highest settings, 1080p, got an average of 178. Here's Fortnite 1080p epic settings, and I figured we'd get a little better out of this, but by the end of this I was actually averaging 78 FPS. GTA 5 performs really well at 1080p high settings. We got an average of 102 FPS. Doom Eternal 1080p high settings with 100% resolution scale, 79 FPS. Now if it was up to me, I'd probably drop some of these settings down to medium just to get a little more out of it with this one. I also tested out Microsoft Flight Simulator, 1080p, low settings, and I came out by the end with an average of 36 FPS, and in the cockpit, we're around 33 to 34 as you can see. I thought we would get much better out of this one, but it's just a harder one to run. And finally here for PC gaming, we have Cyberpunk 2077, 1080p, low settings, 100% resolution scale, we averaged 54 FPS. I also wanted to test some higher end emulation with this machine, and it definitely does an amazing job. Even if you want to do Yuzu for Switch, it will handle it. Here we have Wii U using CEMU upscaled to 2K with that Vulkan backend and async shaders on. It's running at 60. Going into this one, I knew we would be able to handle it at 60, but I wasn't expecting 2K. And if you did want to do 4K, you'll just have to lock it at 30, but it'll do it all day. And finally here, PS3, RPCS3, upscaled to 2K using that Vulkan backend, one of the harder ones to run, Skate 3. It's running at full speed. I mean, this is great. I haven't noticed any stutters even in highly populated areas. This 10th gen i5 can definitely keep up with those 6 cores and 12 threads, and this was the highest temperatures that I saw out of this CPU while doing any of my tests, up to 76 degrees Celsius, but I never hit thermal throttle while doing any kind of gaming or emulation on this machine. So like I mentioned, one of the main things I was worried about with this unit here, given that it's such a small form factor, were those CPU temps, but they're really not that bad. At idle, 38 degrees Celsius. Gaming, we averaged 65 degrees Celsius, and the maximum that I could get this thing to hit was 84 degrees Celsius, 20 minutes of Cinebench R23 running. So overall, really pleased with the form factor, performance, and thermals of this little machine. I really kind of wish I would have put the extra money down and picked up that one with the i7 and the 1660, but at $629 for this i5 and 1650 Super, it's really hard to beat something like this, especially with GPU prices the way they are right now. So if you can find one of these refurbished, I would highly recommend picking it up. I will leave a couple eBay links in the description to where I picked mine up from. I think it's an official MSI dealer because that's really all they have. And when these come back in stock, or if they come back in stock, they're going to go fast, so you got to keep your eye out. At this price point, it's really hard to beat. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. Really appreciate you watching. If you want to see anything else running on this thing, just let me know in the comments below. I will create another video if the demand's high enough. But that's it for this one. And like always, thanks for watching.